Right, so 20 cars took the grid for the first round of F1 in 2026, and 16 ended up classified at the end of the race. Let's have a bit of a talk about the Australian Grand Prix, and we'll start off with those 20 cars. Nico Hulkenberg, for mechanical reasons, was unable to start the race, and poor Oscar Piastri continued the curse of Australians in their home race. Couldn't take the start because he hit the wall on the reconnaissance lap coming out of turn 4. In an interview that is quoted on the F1 website, he said that he had more power than he expected. He had the upshift, he had the curb, wheel spin happened and just sent him into the wall. Sort of a bit like Hajar's last year, or I guess Doohan's. But at the same time, poor Isaac Hajar as well. He was running third. He qualified up there as well. And yeah, the ghost of Helmut Marko decided if you're Max Verstappen, you can't do any wrong. But if you're not Max Verstappen, you have to be behind him in the end. Because poor Isaac Hadjar has the power unit guy. The first proper outage we see for a Red Bull powertrain's engine. And yeah, that ends up defining his race, despite the fact that he was performing quite well outside of that. Elsewhere, Verstappen does come from 20th on the grid to get points, P6. That was a decent run. 54 seconds off the win, but it doesn't tell the story of how he had to fight through the pack, and also how it's harder to climb up through the pack this year. As for the Racing Bulls, Liam Lawson got bogged out at the start and almost got murdered by Franco Colapinto, while Arvid Lindblad had a really good run. He ended up battling with Hadjar up at the podium spots with Lewis Hamilton in the early phases of the race. And from there, let's talk about Ferrari. Because, well, the Ferrari master plan is a concept that seems to transcend all of Ferrari's leaderships, all of their driver lineups, because they did what McLaren did in Qatar last year and kept both drivers out during a VSC. Much to the complaining of their drivers. At the end of it, they were battling again towards the end of the race with Lewis on fresher tyres and Charles. And yeah, Leclerc takes the final podium spot, 15 seconds off the win. Lewis 16 seconds off the win. It seems surprisingly good, like a full sense of security if you're Tifosi, or if you are a Lewis Hamilton fan like myself who has spent much of the past 4 and a bit years coping. It feels strange. Lando Norris getting 5th. That McLaren did improve a bit over the course of the weekend. It looked like Piastri had the measure of Norris, but then, obviously, thanks to the incident, he didn't make the grid. And there are a couple of teams I haven't talked about yet, so let's talk about them. Audi, yeah, we already had one of them in the race, and it was Bortoletto. He gets points. Decent, quiet run for him, and yeah, good for Audi to get points on debut. Alpine, Colapinto invented a new thing called the Colapinto and Go. Because that's what it said when he got his stop-go penalty for the start infringement. Pierre Gasly decided to try and reignite the French Civil War and drove into Ocon, but still managed to get the points, and Ocon was down in 11th at the race's end. The Williams cars had a bit of a quiet one. Sainz finishing 2 laps off of the win, and Alex Albon 1 lap off. I think there was a slow stop in the middle of it, wasn't there, for Sainz? Cadillac, it was quiet. They made what they needed to make. They got there in terms of pace. Yeah, Bottas was out through mechanical failure, but Perez just kept going and made it to the end. Aston Martin, same can't really be said for them. Alonso ended up leaving the pits at one point, having gone into the pits, and ended up, well, the relative showed laps down on the interval to Bottas, then 15 minutes down to Bottas, and he passed Bottas, and he was 10 laps behind Lance Stroll, who finishes 15 laps off of the win at the end of it, is not classified. He was still running, I believe, just yeah, not classified because he didn't do 90% of the race distance. It became a glorified test session for Aston Martin, who held a pre-weekend press conference saying, yeah, we know we're struggling, and Honda issued an apology. Apparently, they didn't know that much of the Honda engine team, when they signed the deal, had already left the Honda engine program, either going across to, say, Red Bull powertrains or being reassigned elsewhere within the Honda organisation. Which is strange, because apparently they only found this out a few months ago, whilst it's been quite well known. I mean, I know people in different F1 teams. This was very well known, and you could find it with, like, a LinkedIn search. What, like 2023, 2024? So it feels like there's something else behind it. It feels like there's more that's not being let on just yet. As for Haas, it looks like Behrman still continues to have the measure of Ocon. It's not just a last year's car kind of thing. But Ocon, like I mentioned earlier, got pulled up in the re-ignition of the French Civil War with Pierre Gasly. And, well, that only leaves one team to talk about, doesn't it? The team that just so happened to get 1-2 in qualifying and 1-2 in the race. And it was quite comfortable in the end. George Russell winning from Andrea Kimi Antonelli by 3 seconds. Look, in my pre-season predictions, I had, Russell as a driver's champion, McLaren as the constructor's champion. There are some things that are definitely not going to pull through. My optimism of the Aston Martin project most certainly will not come through. But, yeah, I'm not entirely surprised. When you have the first year of a new rule cycle, you have the boost of, if you are the engine manufacturer, you can work closer in terms of the technology and integrating the technology properly. And Mercedes have got a bunch of really clever people working on their car that worked on previous generations of Mercedes, where, yeah, the previous generation struggled, but before that, they were the dominant team. I doubt this engine technical directive would do anything to harm that, especially because lots of the teams are annoyed that, Mercedes are annoyed that it's being brought in, and then the other teams are annoyed that the compression ratio test is at ambient and a hot test, rather than just being a hot test. But there's not much more to say, really, is there? Antonelli generally had quite a quiet race, got bogged down at the start and overtaken by a bunch of people, made the most of the VSC window and just slowly climbed up the order. Russell had quite a lot of battles. I was really impressed with the driving, and that we had 3 drivers in theory battling for the lead and battles in places that we didn't before. Those are the kinds of things this new rule cycle is meant to be promoting. And it did do that. Yeah, there were some bits further down in the order where we didn't see so much, and yeah, lots of the overtakes happened when overtake mode was engaged, but, I mean, if you're a motorsports fan, you might watch, say, IndyCar, where that is very much the case, or WEC, where that is also very much the case. Because, yeah, unless you have something that's entirely spec, teams will generate things that make it easier for them to overtake, but harder for other people to overtake them. So you've got to find a way around it. And I think that F1 generally did. I'm not saying the product is perfect, but we got to see some good racing. We had a chaotic start that I was surprised nobody got taken out in. And yeah, I did start to drift off towards the middle of the race. I think around the Bottas VSC, I drifted off quite a bit. And then came back through and not much had changed. But, hey, compared to what people were fearing, where they're like, oh, none of the cars will make it to the end of the race, or oh, there'll be no overtaking, or, oh, look, this is just going to go like this is just going to go like this. There was some excitement and anticipation. There was some good racing. It felt good. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, folks. As always, thanks so much for watching and joining, and till next time, bye-bye for now.